What's up, everybody? We are back. John Delarose here, the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction, with another epic collection review. You've probably seen and noticed that I've done a lot of Daredevil books lately, and it's because I originally started at 18. That is epic collection number 18. We're on number 20 right now. To catch up to 19 because the Epic Marvel podcast was doing 19 and I wanted to listen to that podcast and go over their detailed analysis. That's a great podcast if you guys have not checked it out yet. And then I noticed that a lot of people online in the sort of omnibus community are reading through the Bendis Daredevil run, which comes up a little after this. What's pretty neat about what we've got right now is that Daredevil from 18 to 21 finishes out the volume 1, and then we get Marvel Knights Daredevil Omnibus by Joe Quesada, and that goes up to the Bendis arc, and then the Bendis omnibuses go together, then the Brubaker omnibuses, then Shadowlands, then the Mark Waid omnibuses. So you can actually get, gosh, how many is that all together? It's 8 omnibuses and 4 of these large trade paperbacks, all as a straight run in order without skipping a beat, which is going to be a pretty fun read. So I've decided to go ahead and do that. All right, so if you want to join, that's the reading order. Now, the reason I started with 18 is because right now, as of right now, 15, 16, and 17 are not out. The Epic Collections do not come out in order. And so 18 was really the starting point for this whole run of what we got with Daredevil. The last 2 volumes were not so good, so let's see what we got in Purgatory and Paradise. Volume 20, 1995 to 1997, covering issues 345 to 364. This is the Onslaught era of comics. Marvel was in a big state of turmoil. They went bankrupt for a bit. They fired their editor-in-chief, Tom DeFalco, who you know I'm a big fan of. And in that process, they started these like little subdivisions, and they didn't have an editor-in-chief for a while, but they had head editors of these like edge divisions. There's like a cosmic division, etc. All right, in the last volume, we started with Murdock abandoning the armor costume, which you kind of see here, and it continues with j.m.dematteis writing and showing what's going on here. And over the course of the first few issues, basically Daredevil has a mental breakdown. You see him fighting himself, and he's literally dressing up as 2 different Daredevils, and Karen Page and Foggy kind of end up rescuing him. Foggy finds out he's Daredevil. After a while, this Daredevil kind of is like that like aggressive Daredevil that it's kind of odd, but very weird stuff. I don't usually like the like internal fighting in your head sort of storyline so much, but j.m.dematteis actually pulled it off pretty decently. And you know, from the starting point of where he worked with and trying to bring the character back to its roots and undo all the garbage of the last couple of volumes. You see Matt Murdock here. He actually did a pretty good job. Now this one actually starts with Carrie Nord drawing, and Carrie Nord will be drawing a lot of the next Daredevil. So even though he's billed as a guest penciler here for these next couple of issues, he becomes the full-time job pretty shortly. And I actually like his art quite a bit. I think his figures are pretty good. I mean, this is kind of an awkward deal, but, you know, it looks pretty good for the most part. I like his storytelling, his plotting. It runs very smoothly and quickly, even though there's sometimes he skims on the backgrounds a little bit. Not on this picture. It's pretty interesting with the city line, but you can see, like, you know, this page obviously didn't take them that long to draw. And this is the Purgatory and Paradise, of course. Matt Murdock has to deal with like a ghost of his former mentor or whatnot. And that's that. The coloring and all that is very standard for this sort of 90s fare at this point, in the middle of the onslaught for their like B-tier folk. This all culminates in issue 350, where we have this whole Daredevil sort of mental breakdown where he goes this like hooker establishment, like, talks about his past. Very bizarre. I didn't really like the layouts of this one. They had a different artist on this one. Little jumbled, trying to be cool 90s. It just slows the whole deal down. But through this, you don't know what's real, what's not, and I just, like, it irritates me to see that. And I was very happy to get past the storyline and get Matt Murdock back into his regular Daredevil routine with his friends being as they were. And that's a pretty long storyline. It's about a quarter of the book there that we went through. And even though I'm kind of talking down the sort of like internal struggles and all that, the relationships with Karen and Foggy really developed very nicely through that. And j.m.dematteis, as I said, pulled it off. I really liked and enjoyed that spot. And then I don't know what's going on with Turmoil there, but I guess we get a couple filler issues where Daredevil just fights some one-offs and does some random things that really have no bearing or impact on anything whatsoever in these next couple of issues. We get Bullseye showing up, and before we get to our next run. Is this where this starts? And here's where it starts. In 353. Now in this, in 353, we get our new writer, Carl Kessel, on board, and Carl Kessel does the running. Carrie Nords is the penciler. Now Carrie doesn't seem to be able to keep up with the workload because we get some layouts done by some different people, and some people get brought in to do some different pages over the course of this next, but it's mostly him through this. Daredevil fights Mr. Hyde in this issue. We get some nice moments with Karen Page, and this starts a weird thing. So Mr. Hyde's fighting, Karen's seeking a job, and at the end of it we meet this lady who's a mystery lady. She seems kind of devious and bad. We don't know why, and she really wants Foggy and Matt to join the company as partners for her law firm. And she only wants Matt. She really doesn't want Foggy, and you better not screw it up for Foggy. So Matt eventually joins, but not in that issue. I think we're just about 2 issues away. We get a Spider-Man team-up issue where Spider-Man is Ben Reilly from the Clone Saga era, another controversial, tumultuous time. And more of these plots building. Now, what I really liked about Carl Kessel's run here is that he's got this Mr. Hyde thing going on. He's got the lawyer drama going on. He's got Karen Page's life, which is building into another superhero thing that we'll get to pretty shortly going on. So he's actually building all of these plots with one-off things like this Spider-Man Daredevil as they have to team up and fight here. And they all build up very nicely in a serialized manner. So you get your single issues of something happening, and eventually at the end of this issue, Matt joins the law firm, so does Foggy, and they're going to represent Mr. Hyde. Foggy actually develops pretty good through this too. Has this like budding relationship with Liz Allen, or Liz Osborne, whatever you want to call her, from the Spider-Man universe. Lots of ties into the Spider-Man universe from this point forward. I don't know if that was a foreshadowing, having Ben Reilly in there, but that's what they end up doing. And maybe it is a foreshadowing, I don't know. Then in this issue, Pyro actually starts to burn some stuff down, and which is going to hurt the evidence for Mr. Hyde as Matt's trying to defend him. And we get the little Foggy drama, and Matt goes into this burning blaze to try to find out what's going on. And it continues on, the mystery of why Mr. Hyde, who's not guilty of the one crime, even though he's a bad guy and done a lot of terrible things, he didn't end up killing the person in this thing. And it's kind of silly. I always see this with these characters. Matt Murdock knows Mr. Hyde is a murderer and a terrible person, but he didn't murder this specific girl, and therefore he needs to carry out justice to make sure he's, found innocent. Well, is that really justice? I mean, it's just against everybody's best interest that he actually does this. Doesn't make any sense, really, and just it makes the heroes seem stupid at the end of the day because when they do things like this. So whatever, they needed to do it for the storyline, I guess. And they start representing Liz Osborne also. Now, what's interesting is their law firm has Misty Knight as a sort of investigator. And so she helps them out, and they're investigating the whole deal. They find a hidden entrance, and a Spider-Man tie-in, again, as Daredevil meets up with the Enforcers and has to deal with them. Now, at the end of this, it's revealed that the Enforcers are working for the Eel. Oh my gosh, what a scary villain. And then we get a full Enforcers issue where he's tortured and being tied up while the trial of Mr. Hyde's going on. Is he going to make it back in time with this evidence that the Enforcers and this Eel were in charge? You see all the art's kind of standard fare. It's, you know, it's not great, but it works. There's not a lot of backgrounds and, you know, a lot of talking, but it works. And we get revealed that Karen Page in this one is working for this WFSK, Wilson Fisk, right? Radio station, and that's her job. She's been hiding from Matt Murdock. And from there we get an aftermath. So we get a issue by Joe Kelly, and then a different penciler, Pasquale Ferry. And Joe Kelly, spoiler, will be writing after Kessel's done with this. And Kessel doesn't exactly finish out his storyline. They give him it bleeds over into volume 21, where Joe Kelly starts writing permanently. But for whatever reason, he didn't finish out his run. Joe Kelly kind of finished it up and then goes on his own thing. Now they fight. Murdock's fighting with this lady a lot. I don't remember where it's revealed, which issue it's revealed, but it's eventually revealed that she's Foggy's mother. And some weird stuff goes down. We get Onslaught appearance, but it's not really Onslaught. And it turns out Mysterio is messing with everybody. And we get a Foggy and Liz Osborne relationship sort of deal. Art's not, not the best from Pascal there, but that's okay. Next, we get back into our regular program, I believe, with Carl Kessel back, and we get Carrie Nord on pencils, but Larry Hama on the layouts. Actually, I think with the layouts done by Larry Hama, Carrie Nord might have done a bit better of a job. And this entire issue is dedicated to Karen Page's radio show. And everybody kind of finds out that she's doing it on this one. So it's a very personal issue, pretty neat. I actually really like this. This is pretty cool. Mood setting stuff. Daredevil finds out, actually calls into the show. And that's that. And then it ends with a tease for the Absorbing Man for the next issue, where we'll get back into more superhero fare. Now you'll notice that that the Carl Kessel Carrie Nord run is very swashbuckly superhero. It feels like those old Marvel comics where Spider-Man's going up against and I'm saying Spider-Man intentionally, the Enforcers, and then going up against Pyro, then going up against the Absorbing Man. It's a very like beat 'em up superhero adventure on the superhero side, and then the lawyer drama on the personal side. It feels like old Spider-Man, frankly. And I don't know if that's what they wanted to be writing, but that's the feel they got. It's pretty good, and I really enjoyed it. It's a very different take on Daredevil from a lot of what you see with other folk. But Daredevil, who should be outclassed by the Absorbing Man, figures it out, gets back, and then reveals that he knows what Karen's job is. We get into 361. And Matt starts thinking about the Black Widow. We have some more Foggy drama, as Foggy then takes on a case from the Molten Man. And finally, Matt finds Black Widow. She's a different kind of Avenger. So the Avengers are gone right now in a pocket universe. And she is like, okay, well, if we just stepped it up and just like offed all these villains, we could finally put a stop to them. And they fight the Grey Gargoyle and Old Avengers deal. Now this one starts like it's going to be back with the Black Widow again, and it's just a dream he's having. So Karen's kind of concerned about the whole Black Widow thing, of course. And we get back into the lawyerly drama here. All right. So something's brewing, I guess, around this lady. Gosh, I don't remember her name, even though I've been reading a full volumes of this. Foggy's mother, let's just call her. And this is a really neat issue, actually. So this guy is an old mob boss, and he like puts out a hit on her, and it's really to like lure her in so she shows up again because he's dying, and Daredevil kind of is just trying to figure out what's going on and see if she's a bad guy. It turns out she's not a bad guy, even though she's a, you know, bit of a how do I put this nicely? A B. Tried not to swear on the channel here. You know, she's really mean to Foggy at the end of the day. But very interesting, and this guy's dying. Daredevil's like, you know, he's like, okay, I'll respect your dying wish. Pretty cool. So it's a one-off issue, and doesn't advance the plot so much. But there we go. And now we get Gene Colan on the art, and Gene Colan is an old-timey artist, and you know, he's better than Kerry Nord. Kerry Nord's a, you know, perfectly serviceable artist, as you can see. But Gene Nolan's attention to detail is just a lot better, a little more dynamic of poses. And we get into this Fisk mystery where we're trying to figure out what's going on with this whole job that Karen Page has. And there's a lady in charge of this. She calls herself Insomnia. And Daredevil goes after her. And we get another conclusion here where we get Daredevil busting into the WFSK. There's Insomnia again. Now the relationship between Liz Osborne is budding with, is Kerry Nord back on this one, or is it Gene Colan still? Kerry Nord's back on this issue. So Gene Colan filled in, but he'll become the regular artist pretty soon. Yeah, you can tell. That's why I was like, huh, this is a lot more just standard straight-on faces, which Kerry Nord does a little too much of. But basically, Foggy's mom wants to bust up the Liz Allen thing, so she hires a supermodel to hang out with Foggy, and then calls Liz Osborne to mess with the whole relationship. It's tragic for Foggy. Meanwhile, Karen's dealing with this Insomnia who's in charge of the station, trying to figure out what's going on. Insomnia goes crazy, and Daredevil has to rescue her Karen Page at the last moment. Finds out something fishy's going on. And not everything's as it seems at this WFSK, and there's something else behind the scenes going down. Pretty long video, sorry about that. I tried to get through it as fast as I possibly could, but a lot of explanation to do with kind of the setting and what's going on here. Overall, it was fun. I finished it pretty quickly. Like I said, swashbuckling superhero fare. Reminds me of early Spider-Man stuff. All the way around with the like developing subplots and the sort of every issue a new supervillain fight sort of thing. Very different from what we've been reading a lot in Daredevil, but that's fine. And I like all the character development that they did here. Now the art's okay. I like most of it for the most part. I mean, like I said, a lot of straight-on faces, which kind of get boring after a while, but it's okay. The middle of the book with the one-offs was kind of the weak point because they didn't really advance much while they were trying to figure out who was going to take over the title. And that's it. So I think this is a solid, 7 out of 10, pretty average book. Good stuff. If you like this, hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you next time, guys, with another review.